There is serious danger for Mark Fowler Jr., Stephen Aaron Sipple. In EastEnders next week when he is kidnapped upon failing to pay back his debts to his criminal associates. His estranged father Grant Mitchell, Ross Kemp, is left fearing the worst when his son goes missing just as the rest of his family are busy preparing for Nigel Bates, Paul Bradley, funeral. This week saw Grant offer Mark to help him get his gangland boss Russell off his back, but determined to raise the cash himself, he has tricked Lauren Branning, Jacqueline Jossa, into pushing more of his stolen cars on the car lot. As we return to Walford on Monday, Max Branning, Jake Wood, learns some vintage cars from the car lot have been found burned in a quarry, leading him to question Lauren. When Lauren challenges Mark, he denies any involvement, and Sam Mitchell, Kim Metcalf, also steps up to provide a fake alibi for her nephew. Actress Kim Metcalf, who plays Sam, says, her survival instinct kicks in, and as a mother she understands exactly what buttons might influence Lauren, and how to use that to help Mark. Sam really understands Mark. She sees beyond the bravado and the lashing out to his vulnerability underneath, and she recognizes how abandoned he's felt by Grant. She's never judgmental with him. She tries to support Mark, while also helping Grant understand that it's not about big promises, it's about simply showing up. Meanwhile, Mark continues manipulating Lauren into the possibility of dealing with illegitimate cars as her own financial pressures grow. Something that only gets worse when she hears that a place at a special nursery for her blind son Jimmy has come up, but they can't afford it. Grant later reveals he has sold his bar in Portugal and will soon have the funds to help, but Mark rejects the offer, determined to fix things alone. At his core, Mark just wants to be loved by his dad, and that anger comes from everything Grant wasn't there for, explains Kim. That evening, Mark receives a warning from the people he owes money to, and soon manages to gain access to the car lot safe. However, he has a change of heart about robbing the money inside when a message from Lauren triggers his guilt. But on his way out, he unknowingly drops his keys to number 55. The next thing he knows, Mark is suddenly bundled into a van by masked men. As the days pass, Mark's family grow increasingly worried, not realizing the danger he is in. But as Nigel's funeral arrives, Grant is left fearing the worst when he hears from Russell, demanding his cash or else. Things are further complicated when Russell overhears Sam while speaking to Grant, and it soon becomes apparent that he and Sam have some unfinished business. Grant and Sam spring into action, determined to track Mark down before the funeral, and eventually they embark on a rescue mission along with Phil Mitchell, Steve McFadden, and Billy Mitchell, Perry Fenwick. A tense standoff with Russell unfolds, and while viewers will have to wait to see how it all turns out, they will be left wondering if these events could somehow be connected to the situation Max found himself in during the flash-forward episode on New Year's Day. In Albert Square, tensions rarely stay quiet for long, but in the latest shocking twist in EastEnders, things spiral into dangerous territory as a familiar face vanishes without a trace. What begins as a normal day quickly turns into a nightmare when Mark Fowler disappears under suspicious circumstances, leaving Grant Mitchell fearing the worst and racing against time to uncover the truth. It all starts in the early hours of the morning. The square is unusually calm, with traders setting up stalls and residents going about their routines. But beneath the surface, something sinister is already in motion. Mark Fowler has arranged to meet someone linked to a questionable deal from his past, something he thought he had buried long ago. When he fails to return, concern slowly builds. At first, it's dismissed as typical lateness, but as hours pass, unease spreads. Grant Mitchell, never one to ignore his instincts, is the first to sense that something is seriously wrong. He tries calling Mark repeatedly, but every attempt goes straight to voicemail. What initially feels like frustration quickly transforms into dread. Grant knows Mark well enough to recognize when something doesn't add up, and this time, everything feels off. By midday, Grant begins asking questions around the square. He checks with locals, visits known hangouts, and retraces Mark's last known movements. Each clue only deepens the mystery. A shopkeeper recalls seeing Mark speaking to an unfamiliar man outside the Minute Mart. A second witness mentions a dark car parked unusually long near the area. The pieces don't form a clear picture, but they all point toward one disturbing possibility. Mark didn't leave of his own accord. As panic sets in, Grant's protective instincts take over. Despite their complicated history, There is a bond between Grant and Mark built on years of shared struggles, betrayals, and uneasy loyalty. Grant may not always show it, but he refuses to abandon someone he considers part of his inner circle. And right now that means finding Mark before it's
unknown
too late. To Grant, Mark Fowler is very much alive, but trapped. He wakes up in a cold, dimly lit room, restrained and disoriented. The air smells damp, and the only sound is the faint hum of electricity overhead. He quickly realizes he's been taken somewhere remote. His captors haven't revealed their identities, but their intentions are clear. This is not a random act. Mark tries to piece together what went wrong. The meeting he agreed to was supposed to be routine, just a brief exchange tied to unfinished business from his past. Instead, it appears to have been a setup. The realization sinks in slowly but heavily. He's been lured into a trap. Back in Albert Square, Grant's search intensifies. He grows increasingly frustrated as police are called in but seems slow to act, treating the situation as a possible voluntary disappearance. Grant pushes back hard, insisting Mark would never simply walk away without warning. His agitation begins to draw attention, but he doesn't care. To him, time is running out. As night falls, tensions rise further. Grant receives an anonymous message on an old burner phone Mark once used. The message is short, chilling, and direct. Stop looking or he pays the price. There is no signature, no further instruction, just a warning. Grant stares at the message in silence, his jaw tightening. For a moment, anger threatens to override logic. But experience keeps him grounded. He knows reacting impulsively could make things worse. Still, the message confirms what he already feared. This is a kidnapping, and whoever is behind it is watching closely. Determined not to back down, Grant decides to take matters into his own hands. He begins digging into Mark's recent contacts, focusing on anyone connected to old debts or unresolved conflicts. A name resurfaces, someone from Mark's past who has long harbored resentment and unfinished business. The deeper Grant digs, the more dangerous the situation appears. Meanwhile, Mark's captors begin to reveal their hand. One of them enters the room, speaking calmly but with a cold edge. They don't offer explanations, only accusations, claims that Mark betrayed trust, walked away from obligations, and left consequences behind. Mark denies everything, insisting there must be a mistake, but his words fall on deaf ears. It becomes clear this is about revenge, not negotiation. Back in the square, Grant finally connects a crucial detail. The vehicle seen near the minute mark belongs to a small-time operator with links to the suspect he's been investigating. It's a breakthrough but also a warning. If he's right, Mark is being held by people who are not just dangerous but desperate. Grant's next move is risky. He decides to follow the trail himself rather than wait for official support. With limited information and rising stakes, he tracks the suspect's known properties outside of Walford. Each location brings him closer to the truth, but also deeper into potential danger. As hours pass, Mark's situation worsens. He is moved to a different room, more secure and even more isolated. His captors increase pressure, trying to force him into admitting guilt for something he insists he didn't do. The psychological strain begins to show. Despite this, Mark refuses to fully break. He continues looking for any weakness, any opportunity. Just when all hope seems to narrow, Mark notices something. A flaw in his restraints,